Hey everyone, and welcome to Offstage, a conversation with students, hobbyists, and professionals from the world of music about music with me, your host Anagh. And today I have guests Dhananjay and Swaraj. Hey guys, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Doing good. So we'll
Yep.
we'll kick straight into it. And could you guys give us a small introduction to yourselves, Dhananjay?
Sure. So my name is Dhananjay. I am a bass player slash pianist, although I don't play piano professionally, or it's something that I keep to myself. But yeah, I've been playing bass for about 3 and 4 years now, I think, around four and a half. And I run with a band called Kevikury. And at the same time, I also do my own kind of, I do a lot of freelancing session work. Recently, I did an EP with Shakti, which was mainly
Hmm.
on gent prog,
Yeah.
and I'm just helping people out with their singles and just doing collaborations when I get the time to do it.
Nice. Swaraj?
Yeah, hi. So my name is Swaraj. I've been playing guitar for the past 13 sort of years.
Hmm.
Uh, I've been in and around multiple projects around the city and outside the city. So,
Hmm.
namely, I'm actively part of two projects right now. One
Hmm.
my own band called Manga,
Hmm.
and the other band called Mysore Express.
Hmm.
So I've been doing a lot of session work, a lot of recording, writing,
Hmm.
a lot of content. Um,
Yeah.
the past few years, and I think it's safe to say, like I whatever I put on social media, like I just put a lot of effort into it, and mainly I just work on content. Content making content
Hmm.
is my primary thing, and I do play in a lot of bands, as I mentioned before.
Hmm.
So my primary genre is rock and roll. Uh,
Nice.
a lot of old school stuff, and apart from that, there's nothing much to it. I can play the piano. I can do a bit of drums and so on.
Hey man, I have to see this. If you playing drums,
No, nobody
amazing.
wants to see that. Again, like Dhananjay said, that's something I keep it to myself. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So of course you guys are musicians, as you both mentioned, the whole point of the podcast. But how did you guys get into music? And for you guys specifically, for Dhananjay it would be bass, and for Swaraj it would be guitar. But also in a more general aspect, like what inspired you to get into music and made you decide, okay, I want to like take this seriously. Dhananjay.
So, okay, growing up, my dad's job kind of demanded that we shifted countries a lot,
Okay.
which was something that was really unstable. I mean, you had your plus points to it where you get to see like a lot of cool, pretty places, but then your
Yeah.
negatives where you couldn't really build that strong foundation of like a social
Hmm.
kind of interaction or gathering or, make friends and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So that was a little tough, right, to kind of get into that extroverted side. So what happened was I kind of went within. So
Hmm.
that's where I started playing video games. My dad was a big fan of video games, and I started into that. And then my mom kind of got annoyed that I kept playing a lot of video games. She's like, "Your eyes will get spoiled, etc." So she put me into keyboard classes, or yeah,
Hmm.
keyboard classes at the time. And back then, it was just another hobby for me to like sink my teeth into, right? So I think it
Hmm.
started when I was 6, and it just kept building up, and I just kept sinking my
Hmm.
teeth into more and more. And I had some wonderful piano teachers back in Richmond in the UK and in
Hmm.
France, in the south of France where we stayed. So I had
Hmm.
some really wonderful piano teachers who taught me purely out of passion, just for the love of teaching.
Hmm.
So that's where I kind of got into classical piano, like classical Western. And
Hmm.
that's where I became more formally trained when it came to like sight reading and all of that. And then fast forward a few years to when we came to India in about 2010, I think, or 2009.
Hmm.
So that's when I joined a music school in India, in Bangalore.
Hmm.
I don't remember the name, it's been a while. So
Hmm.
I joined there, but the whole teaching environment was different. Like when you come from abroad to India, you get this really big gap, and not just academically, but for
Hmm.
anything, right? Everything's taken competitively. You don't really do it for the passion, but I mean, initially
Hmm.
it's not for the passion, but it's taken to a more competitive stage, right? Where you have to do
Hmm.
your exams, you have to do this, you have to do that, and you're kind of put in this rat race. That
Hmm.
this is across everything, right? I mean, we
Hmm.
felt it in academics, we felt it everywhere. So because of that kind of rat race, I kind of fell out of love for piano and that
Hmm.
aspect of it. So I became more self-taught from there. I didn't get completely out of touch with music. I just took it a lot more slowly and
Hmm.
kind of went within. So that was kind of my piano journey, which just lasted from when I was 6 to maybe about I turned 18 or 19 till I got my first bass, basically. So the way I got into bass was actually pretty funny. So uh, I had my own band back towards the end of school, which was it was just me and my friends, just a bunch of ragtag guys who just played our instruments, right? And it happens, like my guitarist, who was one of my close friends, still is one of my close friends. He was into Maiden. His dad used to perform basically in Bangalore with a band called Warden. I think Anagh knows more about Warden.
Yeah, fun fact, the musician you just mentioned, Paul Thomas, and my dad were both in the band Warden, and they played classic metal and all that kind of stuff in college. Yeah.
Right. So that's how I got into Maiden. And but when I got into Maiden at the time, I only knew how to play keys. Right. So it was just a pathetic attempt of me trying to like play Trooper, or like me trying to play Fear of the Dark, but on a keyboard. So it wouldn't sound right. Right. I wouldn't say it sounded atrocious, but it's just not meant to be, or I couldn't make it sound right. So when that happened, I realized that, okay, maybe I need to kind of switch my instrument. And I thought of getting into guitar initially. But then I realized that everyone's a guitarist, right? Both of my friends played guitar. We had a rhythm, we had a lead. And I said, okay, fine, this band needs a bassist. So might as well just buy a bass, see what happens. What's the worst thing that can happen, right? Just try it a bunch. So I tried it a bit. Well, initially when I started, surprise, I wasn't good at all. I couldn't like hold roots. I couldn't maintain time. In fact, I had a really, really bad performance in Christ when I just started out on bass in my first year. So yeah, the initial kind of learning curve for bass was really tough for me, because it was my first time just getting used to like strings or a stringed instrument. But yeah, I think one thing led to another, and I just kept trying at it. And I had some lovely seniors, some lovely musicians, and like a lovely musicianship that I found in Christ, which I didn't really find in school. They say that when you're a musician, it's all about meeting the right people and getting those contacts, right? And that really unlocked for me in Christ. And yeah, after I had a really, really bad performance on so Christ has this fest called Darpan. The long and short of it is that basically if you win Darpan, you can represent the university at the university level for music festivals and stuff like that. So I think for my first festival, where I performed with this killer drummer called Anudh, another person called Aditya Krishnan, an insane guitarist, Swati, Nishita, all of them amazing, talented seniors of mine. And here I was 3 months into playing bass, dropping my bass to like C sharp, which I didn't even know I should do like on a 4-string. It was a colossal mess. I couldn't maintain time. I couldn't keep up with my drummer at all. He was phenomenal. I just sucked. Yeah, so that went horribly, and I thought I could cover for it with stage presence, which just, let me tell you this: if you're not confident with your instrument, never try messing around on stage, right? What happened was I tried jumping around. I jumped on my cable, and it came out just. It was horrible. It was the worst performance by a big mile, right? And after that, I got told by certain people I looked up to that I should just drop the bass. I should never touch the bass. That was like a dishonor to bassists, blah blah blah. It was like very discouraging comments, right? But so after that, because I had like these wonderful seniors, I had Amit, who's now in Kelvikuri as well, Samudra, Ranjani, all of these guys, they helped me just like, they basically said, it's okay, just give it another shot. It can't get worse than this. And I said, okay, fine. And like, it was after maybe 2 more months that I picked up my bass, and I just went back to basics, back to learning your scales, back to learning your roots, just trying to maintain time for very basic songs, and then slowly improving rather than just, trying to sprint before you can even crawl. So yeah, that was a fun journey. It was all about just grinding from there. My course, fortunately, it was like, it started at 6:30 a.m. and it ended by like 10:30 in the morning. So I had the entire day to myself to just practice. And that's what I did my entire first year. And after that, towards second year is when we formed Kelvikuri, me and Ranjani. We kind of got everyone together, and we formed Kelvikuri. Insane musicians, right? Everyone's like been playing that instrument for like 10 plus years. I'm the only kid who's just been playing my bass for, at the time, it was probably like 1 year, and I had so much more catching up to do. And because I was surrounded by these guys who were like, I'd say maestros at their instrument, right? Just like living and breathing their instrument and like just teaching me whatever they knew, and I'd just take it. Yeah, it was an insane journey, and that's when I realized, okay, bass is something I like to play. I really love how it sits with the band, and by nature, I'm not someone who likes to be in the front. I'm someone who likes to stay in the back, right? I don't really, again, because of how I was brought up, I couldn't really go to the front side of things, make those, moves first and like kind of make friends that way. So that way I found that, okay, bass is something I can stay in the back, lock in with the drummer. And at the same time, I'd have my own space while enjoying the benefits of being on a stage and like interacting with people, right? So a lot of my Kelvikuri gigs, people would tell me like, hey, did you really have fun? Because my expression would just be kind of like dead, because I don't know how to show it.
I get that. I'm the same.
Yeah, I didn't know how to show it. And I was just like, but to me, I was having like the time of my life, because I was performing on a stage with, musicians way out of my league. And it was just insane fun to like be a part of it. Right?
And
Like
man, all of that paid off. Like it really, really paid off. After, like, I was surprised you said you've only been playing bass for 4 years. Because after seeing you playing, I would have guessed you've been playing for a lot longer. And in fact, you're one of the best. You're one of the best bass players I know. And it's
so
clearly surrounding yourself with the right people and surrounding yourself with people who are also better than you and inspire you will make you go like milestones of ahead of what you think you can do. So I think you've done a good job also at proving the people who told you to drop the bass wrong.
Yeah, the most satisfying moment for me was, I mean, in first year when I got all those kind of comments and I kind of gave up on my instrument, to fast forwarding to second year where in Christ I won the best bassist award. That was something I kind of, I didn't expect that at all to happen. I mean, even now, if you told me 5 years ago, like this is where you'd be 5 years from now, I'd laugh it off, because it's something I thought I'd never be able to like do. And music has also helped. I mean, especially bass has also helped me like strengthen myself foundationally, like from taking confident decisions to whatever I do at like work, at office. It's helped me so much to just like keep a calm and composed mind and just kind of dissect things like part by part, like how I would with bass. So it's been quite a fun ride, and it's just continuing from there. Bass that way has been more enjoyable than piano has ever been. Maybe that's from the bias standpoint of, because bass was completely self-taught, but yeah, it was awesome fun, dude. Like it was amazing fun to learn.
And I think from everything you've just said, a lot of the viewers can take and get also inspired that, if you put in the work and surround yourself with the right people, you can achieve goals you wouldn't think are possible. So that was a great story to tell, man. I'm sure it's inspired a lot of people.
Thanks.
And Swaraj, what about you? What made you get into music and also guitar specifically?
It's kind of the same story as Dhananjay, but the only thing is I stayed in the same country. I didn't move around, and I was just antisocial. But so the thing is, I asked my parents whether I can get an instrument, and they got me the small keyboard, like a Casio keyboard. And at that point, I didn't even take classes. I just had a small phone with. That's when we got Wi-Fi at home and all. So, and I had access to this beautiful place called YouTube, and so I've been just noodling around, like see what I can learn, and whatever music knowledge initially, and even now, whatever I'm learning or whatsoever has come from YouTube. So so basically I just looked up on YouTube how to play some songs or something like that. And the way how it was taught on YouTube was basically you just put numbers or something like that, and they just give you a bunch of numbers, and you just see and press those keys going on. And I did this for a couple of songs, actually a couple of rhymes. Yeah. And then my folks at home were actually impressed. Okay, cool, this kid is actually doing something. And so I learned. I tried as much as I learned as much as I could with the small keyboard for around like 6 to 7 months. Every day I finished school, I used to come home immediately. Just I won't even take off my uniform or something. I just go get on the keyboard and I just try to start. I just try to recall whatever I tried to learn before. And I had kept this book where I used to write everything, because at that point of time, phones were a luxury.
Right.
All right. So it's not like you could always be on your phone or something like. So the time I used to get to be on my phone or my computer or something, I just used to write down whatever notes or something like that what I could find, and So I used to just write them down, have like a bunch of notes about that, and just practice. And eventually, I ran out of keys because it was a small keyboard. I didn't have enough
Right.
keys.
Right.
All right, so I went and asked my parents whether can I get a bigger one, and they got me a big one.
Hmm.
And then again, I was just playing around. I think I've been playing the keys for almost, I think till up until like seventh grade, I guess. So almost 5 years I've been playing the keyboard. Then in these old keyboards and all, I think even in the ones which come out now, they have these inbuilt songs, these old classical pieces and all.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
could
I
just hit
have one of
play.
those.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think all of us here have
yeah,
started with the keys only.
yeah. So to be honest, keys is the easiest instrument what you can start on.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so
Start doodle, have fun. Yeah.
so yeah, so funny story about how I got into guitar. So yeah, so my keyboard had a lot of tones, these different sounding, like you
Yeah.
get like
Yeah.
this trumpet, flute. And I was just playing around and I stumbled upon this cool overdriven guitar sound.
Hmm.
So I was just playing this chord, okay, some chord on my left hand, and it was already in that lower register of the keyboard. So it sounds like bassy and stuff. So when I was playing that chord, it was some minor chord or something, and I was just playing through the tones. So suddenly I stumbled upon that guitar tone, and like the chord, it sounded very huge to me. Like, oh, it's actually cool. So I was so fascinated by that sound, that instrument sound. And my keyboard also had a pitch bend wheel, the wheel what you can,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I was just trying to play these songs, whatever I knew before, and I was trying to mess around with that pitch bend, and it actually sounded really cool. Uh, I was like, why not learn the actual thing? So, so I went to my parents. I asked, can I learn the guitar? And they were like, no. I'm like, why? You just got a keyboard, so we're not buying your guitar. And I was like, I mean, I couldn't ask also at that point. So at that time, I was around seventh grade or something. So my school had this really cool music room where they had like a cool drum kit, a guitar, an acoustic guitar, and I think that's about it. And probably a really good keyboard. So I used to go every during my lunch breaks or my PE class or something like that. Like if there's no classes happening like subject wise, I just used to go there and spend hours together on that keyboard or whatever. So there was a music teacher at school, and he taught me a lot of stuff. Like I didn't take his classes or anything, but then the times when I used to just go and mess around with the instruments, he taught me a lot of he gave me a lot of knowledge about the instrument theory wise, like how everything sounds, like how it works, and kind of gave me an understanding, okay, like a 101 approach to like music. So I got really interested and I kept going and going and going, and I remember, okay, cool, there's a guitar in school. So let me just go there and try to pick it up and try to play. So, yeah, I mean, like, I was like, okay, cool, like, I want to play guitar. So I asked my music teachers, like, is it like okay if I play the guitar or something like that? So he was like, before you play, have you heard any songs which use the guitar? I'm like, no. I mean, at that point, I had just had, this one song. It's by Michael Jackson. It's called "Beat It."
Okay.
So that
Okay.
that riff Eddie Van Halen did, yeah. So I told him I just knew that one song and I was able to play that on a keyboard with the guitar patch on the
The
keyboard.
guitar.
So he showed me like the first rock band like I ever got introduced to was Bon Jovi. So he showed me Living on a Prayer, and in all honesty, like uh, rock music is not something people would easily get used to. Like at least coming from a conventional, like like a proper, South Indian family, nobody's like yeah, like rock and roll. Like to their eyes, it's all screaming and stuff like that. They
Yeah.
don't see the actual talent.
Wait till they hear metal.
Yeah, I'll get to that also in a bit. Okay.
Yeah.
So I heard Bon Jovi and I was not impressed. I'm like, okay, cool. Okay, that sounds all right. And then he showed me Sweet Child of Mine. I know, I'm sorry,
Okay.
Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses. And that intro riff, the whole delayed thing. And there were so many parts in that song. And that actually got my attention. I'm like, yes, I want able to do that. And then he showed me Sweet Child of Mine and all those songs and everything. And I'm like, shit, just blew my mind. And again, I'm sorry for the profanity.
It's okay.
Okay, keep forgetting. Okay, so and then I was like, yeah, I want to be able to do that. So and he gave me a bunch of exercises. You want to try it out, so that I could try it out when I was in the music room or something like that. So simple, like just to get your fingers moving, some very basic stuff. And I used to be so hell bent on learning the guitar. So whatever exercises he gave it to me, which was meant to be practiced on a guitar, I used to go back home, put the guitar patch on, and I used to do that on my keyboard.
Would that help though on the guitar? Practicing it on the keyboard?
No, but then at least I'd get used to how it sounds or something like that.
True.
So that way, because initially nobody can hold the guitar right, or your fingers are not accustomed to hold the strings or something like that. So the more I played it on my keyboard, like I knew how I should be doing it. Like what was the sound I needed to get out of the guitar. So if you go to a normal class or something, so they'd actually ask you to like put your fingers apart or like normal stuff like that. But since I didn't have anybody to tell me what to do, my whole approach was like how it should sound. So I went by how it should sound, like based on how it sounded on my keyboard.
Okay, right.
So so I've been noodling around a lot, and then and eventually I learned to play that beaded riff on the guitar itself. And after a lot of pestering, a lot of I asked my parents, and then they finally got an acoustic guitar. And that acoustic guitar also, my uncle got it so that he could learn the guitar.
Nice.
Okay, so I used to just go into his room and pick up the guitar whenever he's not around and try to play whatever I played, practiced or whatever. And one day he just got me like playing the guitar. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, no, I was just trying to play. And he was like, play something. And I played that beaded riff, and he was actually impressed. It was like, are you going to class and all? I'm like, no, I'm not going to any class. And then it only started from there. So, and my uncle was like, okay, fine. If you want, you can use my guitar. You can practice and everything. So again, YouTube became, I don't know whether you guys know this YouTuber called Marty Schwartz.
I do. Yeah. The guy with the top hat, right?
Yes, that's him. So like that dude. So
I think I watched this tutorial on how to play Back in Black by AC/DC when I was starting out.
So I watched a lot of videos, a lot of tutorials. It was mostly for the songs which I already knew. At that point, I started slowly getting into that scene, and that's when I started like I started trying to learn how to read tabs and all that stuff. So then I went online and found tabs for that stuff, guitar lessons and everything. And I found backing tracks where I could just, play with the acoustic guitar and everything. And probably 6-7 months, like I kind of got the hang of it. Like I was able to play like a bunch of good songs. And then I went to my parents and I asked, can I get an electric guitar? And you can see where this goes now. So they were like, no, again. And then I was like, and I stopped, and I'm like, there's no point in asking. It's fine. I'll just learn the acoustic as much as I can. And I learned. I actually went and learned as much as I could. I really milked how much ever I can from the acoustic guitar, like in terms of learning chords and everything. So I've been trying to pick up all these iconic songs, like overplayed songs, and trying to play them on the guitar again. I had one, it was just a bad luck for me. So the guitar, what I had, so it was not a cut through. So basically, I can't play more than the 14th fret.
Right.
It's like that classical guitar where it's fully there. So I wasn't able to play anything above the 14th fret. So that kind of also like stopped me from learning a lot of solos. Like, at that time, that's when I discovered Metallica and all.
Respect for you to trying to learn solos on a guitar, on an acoustic guitar without a cutaway.
I just had to make shift with whatever I had. So I think when I was in my 9th grade, there was this competition where a bunch of singers, drummers, bass players, everybody came together and tried to play a bunch of songs, and it's for some inter-school competition, something like that. So the song they picked out was 21 Guns by Green Day.
It's always 21 Guns. For schools competitions, it's always 21 Guns. The number of times even I have played that song on the drums for competitions is just so much.
Great. Actually, it gets so actually the competition where we went to, two of the bands played the same song. So there were a lot of school bands which came out on that day. But yeah, regardless, so the song we chose was 21 Guns. And I just had an acoustic guitar, and most of the song is an acoustic guitar except for the chorus and the solo. So I could easily get away with for most of the rehearsal sessions. So when we went to the chorus section of the songs, that's when it demanded an electric guitar, like the distortion and everything. So, and they asked me like, yeah, you're the guitarist, you need to, get a guitar and an amp or something like that. So I went around asking, and one of my friends in school had a guitar, but he never played it. I don't know why. So I just asked him, can I borrow your guitar or something like that? He told okay. But at the last minute, he just went out of station or something. He just dipped. And I didn't have a guitar. Okay. Actually, around that time only, I was pestering my parents to get me an electric guitar as well. So, and that's when it got even more. I'm like, I need it. I'm playing a competition. I need it. And they finally got me one.
So in a way, your friend dipping worked out in your favor.
It did. Yes, it did. But after all the backlash I got from my parents, I mean, I'd rather wish I would have borrowed it from my friends.
I mean, look at you now. I'm sure there's no regrets.
True. Yeah, true. I mean, yeah. So I got the guitar then, and then I told them the guitar is not enough. I need an amp. And they were almost about to disown me, dude. They were like, dude, you just get out, man. No,
the list never ends.
Yeah. So they just went, and I picked up the small Stranger amp. So we played the show. We didn't win, but I played the solo. Like I got a good response, and I was like, okay, cool. I like how they're reacting to what I'm doing on stage, and it kind of drove me to do more. And then, after that, it's just been practicing, listening to songs, nothing much. And I think when I was around 10, when I was in 10th grade, I joined one band. Like, I was the only 10th grade. I think I was the only kid who was below 25, I think. Everybody were like 28, 30, 35, all oldies, at least compared to me at that point of time. So they did like the exact same kind of music which I love to play, rock and roll. The more I practiced with them, every weekend I used to go there, and the jam room used to be in Kormangla. And the same thing what Dhananjay told, like, they were so good, and the musicians around me were so good. And so, like, nice to me, like, they helped me, like, learn more things, and they showed me more, they helped me discover more artists. One of my bandmates in that old band was a music teacher as well. So he had this premium guitar course and on everything. And these institution people and all usually get these courses just so that they can give it out to the students and all. So my bass player was a teacher, and he had access to all these courses, which he gave me, like, you can use it if you want to. And all that material really helped me, like, learn more about the instrument, like, more techniques, more ideas. And yes, eventually, like, I started experimenting more and more and more. I understood how the instrument works. And eventually I started to play by ear, trying to get that fact that, like, if you listen to a song, you should be able to play it. I was able to find, like, my sound when it comes to guitar playing. Like, it's like you playing drums for something. It's like you go to, like, you go to fills or like a certain kick pattern or something. It's something every musician can relate to. So I was able to find that sound, and I mean, like, I posted a lot of content which got me into, like, so this band called Mysore Express approached me back in 2017 and I learned a lot more when I joined Mysore Express. Even though the guys are not from Bangalore, they are in Mysore, and they just write their stuff. Therefore, the four people, except the rhythm guitarist, which is me, are from Mysore. They write their stuff there. They jam very frequently, and they send out demos to me where I sit and learn them. And just probably 2 or 3 days before the show, we just have like a really long jam session, and we just go play on stage or something like that. So I was exposed to this kind of environment where, okay, cool, this is an actual band who's looking to make a career in the industry, and, like, I have to, like, put my 100%. And that's when I started getting more and more into music. When I started playing live is when I realized I loved what I'm doing. Same what Dhananjay told. Like, I've messed up a lot on stage, especially that the initial times. But then I still loved what I was doing on stage. It just went upon practice, playing on stage, like, every time, like, I learned something new, which I carried it to the next show and so forth. And by that time, I was already like writing music and everything. So yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, like the process never ended, even up to date. Like, no, I'm like, I always like learn, like if there's anything new out there, like which really grabs my attention, I try to pick it up, learn it, or the learning never ends. So,
Yeah, and we can,
yeah,
and I think that whole process you've gone through really shows in your playing, and it's quite it's a very good process, and I think the way that you've approached in your learning has really helped your playing as well, and
definitely, yes.
it's done, and you're one of the you've become one of the best guitarists I know,
Oh, thanks, man.
and both of you also mentioned that both of you have mentioned that you've surrounded yourself with people who are like you had surrounded yourself with much better than you, were inspiring you. They gave you a lot of advice, helped you along. So, what is the one piece of advice that both of you have received from a musician that has really helped you in your field that you would also like to share with the viewers, Dhananjay?
That's a loaded question.
Yeah,
I
that
think
is.
well, okay. The best piece of advice I got was actually from this band called House of Waters, right? They're very jazz kind of contemporary music. So their bassist, his name is Moto Fukushima, and I learned one of his songs on my sixth string, which was a pain to learn. And I went to him and I asked him, like, how do you improve technique, right? Without like kind of going into specifics. So I asked him, like, what's like one golden nugget that you'd part to like people who were seeking improvement. And I think one of the best advices among the many he's given me was just watch interviews. Not even like interviews of people playing, but just their perception and their perspective of how they approach their instrument, because it's your instrument defines you, right? It's nothing but a thing that kind of carries your personality, carries everything about you. When you start off, if you're someone who's like rambunctious with your playing, right? You make a lot of noise. You're very flamboyant with your playing style. You're really good at it, and you're like really flamboyant with your playing style. It kind of tells that, okay, this person's more outgoing. Maybe I can't exactly put that was a really poor example, but I can't exactly put like a kind of image to it. But
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So you know where you see it. So it's kind of, you watch their interviews and just see how they carry themselves, how they approach their instrument, how they approach their music. Right. It tells you a lot about their behavior patterns and how they kind of get into their music and get into the nitty-gritty details without really telling you how to practice. They said, so the best thing was basically just watch a lot of interviews, see how they carry themselves, because it's all about the mindset. If you put yourself in the mindset when you're learning a really difficult piece and you're just like, okay, this is a really difficult piece, I can't do it, you're never going to do it. But if you put yourself in the mindset that, okay, what was the headspace, or what was this guy trying to convey when he wrote that lick, or when he tried playing that, what was like his kind of perspective when he was working on it. And I think that's actually what got me through the lesson by Victor Wooten, because I divided it into like a lot of sections to kind of like learn and memorize. And when you look at it, it's a flurry of notes, and there's like multiple things, like his left hand is playing one pattern, his right hand is slapping another pattern, and at the same time he's putting in artificial harmonics everywhere. So it's like, it's okay, fine. Like when you look at that technique, you're obviously flabbergasted by everything that's going on. But when you not even like dissect it segment wise and listen to it, but when you like watch a lot of his interviews and see how laid back he is and how he approaches his music, for him, double thumb, which is something he took up after Marcus Miller, was basically just him thinking like, okay, a lot of people slap by just popping, like pushing down, but what happens if you pull up? Right? It's just like, what happens if you use it like a pick? Like, I think his brother taught him to do that. That's what he said in one of his interviews. But yeah, he's just like, what if you do something like this? And that what if is what triggered, that double thumb. And then you've got classical double thumb, which is like a flurry of just practicing. And then you have the lesson, which was a brilliant masterpiece in terms of like how he incorporated a lot of different styles into it. So I think watching interviews is probably the best advice I can give anyone personally, and the best advice I've gotten, because you learn a lot more about the person you look up to. and you learn a lot more about the place they come from, how they practice, and how they practice, not in the sense like what they do, like, practicing your scales or your modes, which is a given, but it's about how they approach their instrument, how they approach their practice, how they approach their craftsmanship. That I'd say that's something like a key takeaway that I've taken away over the past 4 years when I've like improved. So I think that's probably the best I can give.
Yeah, that's pretty good advice. That's I've never thought of even doing something like that, like just watching interviews of musicians and how they approach the instrument. So that's really good advice, and I think I'm also going to take up on that. And Swaraj, what about you?
Um, Actually, so the one advice what I got from musicians around me was to practice. Just keep doing that. Like, dude, you need, like, if you're really serious about something, you would definitely put the time and effort to it. And obviously, like, as musicians, I think it's safe to say like that is the number one thing what you need. The discipline towards your instrument, as Dhananjay told, your instrument defines you.
Yeah.
So like whatever you do, so you need to have the discipline towards your instrument, the commitment. It's like one long distance, it's one long-term relationship that you need to maintain. So it all goes down to how much you practice, how much effort you're willing to put, and what are the things you're willing to sacrifice to put that effort. But this is just like a philosophical point of view. But in actual reality, like how he said about interviews, Dhananjay, what helped me was watching band play live, like as in not like going to a show or something. Like I used to watch a lot of concerts online. Like they have these shows recorded and all. So what really got me was like, see, one thing I knew at that point. Sorry about that. So one thing I knew at that point of time was if the songs or whatever you listen to with that, whatever you listen to is not like they just plugged in, played it, and that's what you hear. It has gone through lots of like, processing, practicing, or redoing the same thing over and over and over again. So to make it sound the song it is. But when in a live setting, you're not given that opportunity or that freedom, like, to keep playing over and over again. It's not like you play the same riff 10 times and you choose the best one and put it out to the PA or something like that. It's not how it is. You just you guys come together as a band and play everything. What really fascinated me was like, imagine how hard they must have practiced to sound so good live, which sounds as close as the record. So watch a lot of live videos and interviews as well. Like, you need to know what the artist's mindset as well.
Yeah,
like
that's also some good advice.
Their approach, yes.
Yeah.
So
practice the most foundation, and
practice, yes. Yeah.
That's something everyone has to do to get better.
Yeah, in a musician's dictionary, practice should be the first word.
Practice should be the first word. Yeah, and both of you mentioned in your introductions that you also do a lot of sessions work and a lot of collaborations and a lot of work with other people. So what is an ideal kind of person to collaborate with? Like not, I wouldn't say mannerisms, but what should a person have when they're collaborating with someone? Because of course there are qualities which you wouldn't want in a person that you're collaborating with. So what would you define as an ideal person to collaborate with? Dhananjay?
That's another loaded question.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, so far I've collaborated with great people, but the thing is, I'm probably the person everyone hates because I take a lot of time. Like with all these guys, I tell them straight up, right? They'd come to me and they'd just be like, "Hey, listen, could you play bass for this?" And I'd say, "Look, I'm not a full-time bassist. It's just a part-time thing. So I'm not really expecting much, like in terms of anything. It's just that you just need to give me time because I have a lot in my head, like with work and with working in a startup, it never ends, right? You either work, some days you work like 3 hours, some days you work 13 hours. So it gets crazy sometimes. So because of that, I don't have the energy to like, once I come back home from office, to then sit and record. So I just said like, give me some time. I'll work on it. I'll work segment by segment, section by section. I'll take my own sweet time and then I'll send it to you. If you like it, cool. If you don't like it, just tell me what you want me to revise. I'll revise it and send it back. And I tell them straight up that, you know, if you want to find another basis, it's fine. If you want to find it anytime in between, go for it, because I will take my time, right? So I'm the kind of guy where you ask them for a project, I'll take at least 3 to 4 months. In fact, Shakti's EP, I think I delayed it by a good 8 to 9 months just because I had like so much work piled on me, and it was just and it's not like playing for him is something, which I kind of abused him for it with the amount he's like, like the amount of difficulties I went through just learning his songs. But it paid off because I learned a lot. He also learned a lot in terms of how my bass playing was. So when you talk about an ideal person, I'd say like first you have to gel really well. The thing is, with all of these guys, I gelled really well. Shakti, he used to be he was a part of Rhetoric, which back when KLV was in the festing circuit, when we were doing Battle of the Bands, they were always like hot on our tail, right? They were really unique. They were kind of like, I wouldn't say kind of like Juke Radio, but they had that same concept where they do a lot of like those fusion runs with a lot of like gent metal vibes. And that was something I was kind of getting into. So I really liked Lalit's vocals. I really liked Ajit. I really like Kaustubh, who is the bassist. I really like Shakti, the way he played. So because of all of this, like I knew Shakti beforehand, and then he's just like, hey, I need someone to play bass for this. Are you willing to do it? And I said, look, as long as you give me time, I'm in. So he said, cool, I don't mind giving you as much time as you want. We just need to get it right. I said, yeah, that's perfect. And like we went through, I'd say, I wouldn't say fights, I'd say squabbles, right? Just like different mindsets because of like the way I approach something, the way he approached something, and like how we'd kind of meet in that middle ground. Like, okay, yeah, we can do this here, we can do that there. And I think same thing with Ajit, really. I sent him like a stem, and some parts he wanted me to cut down, like play, not overplay. I tend to have that tendency to kind of just like go wild when I'm recording stuff, just whatever comes to my head. So so with Ajit, it was pretty straightforward actually. Just that we had maybe one reiteration I had to do. But with Shakti, it was like the entire EP before he gave me the reiteration sounded entirely different. Like whatever bass lines I had sounded entirely different, and whatever came out was entirely different, which I recorded. But like, I mean, it was still fun as anything, and it was like, it was really cool to work with it. And with these guys who I'm like collaborating with across the country, like especially when you're like working in Singapore and different time zones are involved, and you haven't really gotten on a call. So the furthest I'd go is we'd kind of just chat, like we just talk about things not at all related to music, or maybe like related to your favorite artist, but just kind of establish a common ground, like a personal connection that you get with the person first before even like taking up their project. Just like kind of, talk to them, see what they do, see what they're into. If you guys gel well, then cool, go ahead and take up that project, because there's definitely going to be something or the other that will pop up, right? So it's, I think the ideal thing is you just need to ensure that you guys gel well, that you're on the same page about everything. You need not like the other person who you're freelancing for, right? Freelancing comes with that, especially when you're doing a lot of these gigs for like a quick buck. So in that kind of situation, you don't even have to like the person, as long as you guys agree to like a certain terms of conditions that you both will be willing to follow, right? This can be anything from payments to structures to how much time you want to take. All of this has to be like kind of sorted out before you decide to take up the project. Exactly. Otherwise, you just end up in a lot of soup you'd rather avoid. I'd say that's probably what I'd look at.
And Swaraj, anything to add to that in terms of what makes an ideal collaborator?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing, if anybody approaches me for a collab or whatever, is I would expect them to have an understanding of what is the kind of music I play, and what is something which they think like my style could help in their music, or something like that. It should not be like, okay, cool, you're a drummer, okay, you're a guitarist, can you play this song by Pliny or something, when you spent your whole life playing like rock and roll and stuff like that. So that's one thing, that's the most basic thing I would expect anybody who approaches me to know. As much as like I'm open to learning new things to do, and but that goes again, as Dhananjay said, if you want me to do something which is way outside my comfort zone, give me the time and lots of it. If you want my artistic creativity, then you have to give me that freedom as well to express my creativity. So that is the number one thing I look for in collaborations. In terms of monetary time and other things, like so most of the collabs I've done required me to go and do a video shoot with them. Like it's all about scheduling, like how you're able to manage time. It all comes down to that basic principle, which is relatively easier to manage, which is easier to work with. If you can get the initial thing, what I just said about like, trying to find the right kind of musician or a right kind of a sound, what you want for your collab, which you think I would be able to offer. I think that's the most important thing you should look for in a collaborator. So,
Yeah.
yep.
And for my last question, it's a very small question, but I would like to know what's so far in your career, what has been a highlight? Dhananjay?
So a lot of my bandmates kind of joke that every year I always buy a new bass. So it's like every gig I have a new bass. But I think my best, like the biggest, I have two big highlights actually. One of them was getting my first headless, right? The Ibanez, which it blows my mind playing on that. It just, every time I pull it out, it's just a treat, right? It's
Not
like,
gonna lie, a little jealous.
it's
a lot.
It's insane to play, and it's like every day when I pick it up, it just feels like a new instrument. But I was really happy that it was like my first bass I could fully self-fund, and it was something like that premium that I finally did, right? Especially just making the decision to get that purchase was something that was impeccable. And my second biggest highlight, like despite coming from a very closed, closeted kind of background where I'd like to stay, as an introvert, just like stay inside, was actually on my birthday. We had a gig. This was just before we got through to Pravega. I mean, opening for Monuments was definitely its own, it's like own kind of vibe. But I think my best moment was I just turned 21. So that was like the official legal age for drinking, although let's be honest, no one follows that. But yeah, I remember like even my dad was there for that gig. And there was like, I think we had like at least 150 to 200 people in fandom. It was quite a decent crowd. And my bandmates surprised me. So they kind of got like a big pint of beer on stage. And they're just like, what, happy birthday, come to the front and like just have fun. This is the one time where the bassist gets to be in the front in the center. So like what we did was it was unreal, where like everyone, like first I think everyone sung happy birthday, which like when you're on a stage and like you in your in-ears you can hear everyone singing it from the vocal mic. I was like, like I felt intense pressure, and like it felt awesome. But like you're talking to a kid who didn't have a social life, to just watching 200 people wishing you is really scary. So that happened, and then I kind of started like a countdown where everyone was just like screaming chug chug, and I just like chugged an entire pint, and my dad was just there watching. And it's just like, you're riding home after this. I'm just like, yeah. So yeah, I think that was my biggest highlight, man. Like
That's quite the highlight. That too.
Nothing like, I mean, opening for Monuments was its own fun thing, but nothing can ever top when you're at your own gig, 200 plus people, 150-ish to 200 people there, and just like completely just, it felt like those once in a lifetime opportunities that, 10, 20 years from now, you're definitely going to remember. And I think another one I kind of look back at fondly, which I don't know if it's sadistic or whatever, is the one time I messed up horribly on stage with my bass. Because it's something I keep visiting. Like that memory is ingrained in my skull. Right? Like until I die, I'm never gonna forget it. But it's like it's something that humbles you. Sometimes when we learn a really tough piece, especially when I learned Victor Wooten, I'm guilty of this as well. I'm just like, yeah, I'm the shit. I can play Victor Wooten. I can do like a lot of things. I learned the toughest song there is. But then I remember like where I started was something atrocious, right? And that kind of brings me back down. I'm like, okay, fine. You learned a really cool song. You learned a really cool piece. It's really tough. Keep at it. Good job. But find the next thing to learn, and like just make sure that you don't get carried away in something where you completely lose yourself just because you could nail something you've always wanted to nail. Like it's good to revel in that success, but it's also better to like remember where you came from and remember that you always have to practice, right? Like Swaraj said, it's always practice no matter what.
Yeah, that's quite a few highlights, nice highlights. I really like the birthday one also, and that's pretty good advice. And Swaraj, what about you? One of a highlight for you?
I don't have anything as much as fancy as what Dhananjay said, but I mean, again, it's all subjective on what you choose to have as a highlight in your career. So, so for the people who might not know, so I do teach music as well. So what I'm about to tell is completely related to the time when I teach music. So I've been teaching for around like 4.5 years right now. I've been
Oh
teaching a
wow.
lot of students and everything, mostly online classes and stuff like that. So most of the people who want to learn from me approach me on my Instagram. They send one of my videos or reply to one of my stories I post and like go on learn and stuff like that. So it was I think it was around the not even pandemic, I think probably around 2018, I guess. So one of these one of the students like I was teaching like was finally able to go to like a school. He was a small kid. He was a school. I think he was in 9th grade or something. So he was able to go to school and I didn't teach him 21 guns. Didn't. So I taught him American Idiot instead.
Good man.
So yeah, I taught him this song and he was able to play that like with the backing track and everything, and he got the first prize like in that Minute to Fame or something.
That would have been a nice, proud teacher moment.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it did. So he came back to me and he was like, "Thank you so much for," and like it kind of moved me. So that's when I realized, okay, like more than playing on stage, this teaching side also has a lot of yes, a lot of it gave me a really good sense of okay, how do I say this? Like, okay, cool. This is one part. This is another way where you can help. Like, I wouldn't say help, probably. Yeah, like you can put your music out there or try to help a person navigate through some problems or whatever it is in terms of playing the instrument, not in like philosophical methods and all. Yeah, so as a teacher, like that's when like it was like a really heartfelt moment for me as well. Like, okay, cool, like I was able to help this kid and everything, and I saw the video on how he's enjoying on stage, and like it really moved me. So like and I was like, okay, fine. That's when I realized, okay, I did something good as a teacher as well, like when I was like that. So in terms of teaching, that was one of my biggest highlights. I still look up to that day. But in terms of like actually playing on stage, it's definitely it's like this. Every show has this one moment where you think, okay, you think you would have done something better from the previous or or the before that or something.
Yeah.
Like that. I really don't look for the times when like something iconic has happened. Instead, I just look for the times when I managed to do something better than what I could last. So like that itself is a milestone for me. Like if I'm able to like move around or jump around and play, like have a good time on stage compared to last show or something like that. That itself is a milestone for me. If I'm able to like not mess up a solo and play it on point compared to a last show like where I probably messed up a few notes or something like that, that is a milestone for me. Like like probably if I see the video like how we played on stage or something like that, if like it's just about that perfection. I do it like compared to the previous shows, something better. That's a milestone for me within itself.
Yeah, and I think also I really liked when you were telling me about being a teacher and seeing the impact you have on someone else's life and their journey, and that
Proud dad moment.
proud, it's really proud teacher moment. That'd be a really great feeling. And with that, we're coming to a conclusion of the episode. This would be the 15th episode of Offstage. By far the longest episode. This is the first episode where I've removed the 20-minute time constraint. So yeah, I hope the viewers have enjoyed this. Thank you to the both of you for joining me in this episode. You can check both of them out on Instagram. They'll be tagged in the description, whether you're watching it on Instagram or YouTube. And you can check out the bands that they mentioned. That would be Manga, Mysore Express, and Kelvikuri. So thank you guys for joining me, and I will see the viewers in the next episode.
Thank you.
See ya. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yes.